Hello, this is Empire Talks Back. That's Mr. Anthony Garcia, the Mood Master. I'm Wallace Allen, your host. Today's program will give you the opportunity to meet Miss Pamela Pate, a veteran. She is a former Chief Master Sergeant with the United States Air Force. She's not here to make us march or fly either, but she is here to show us how to organize our lives, and we'll get into that right after this short break.
I already knew that I was going to go to college, from a young age. I definitely want to major in political science, become the mayor or something, make the situation better for other people. My name is Justin, and I am your dividend.
Welcome back. This is Empire Talks Back. I'm still Wallace Allen, and my guest is Pamela Pate, Chief Master Sergeant, United States Marines. She's a veteran. She's not active now in that part of her life, but she's going to talk to us a little bit about her new career. Pamela, how are you?
I'm great.
Good.
How are you? Thank you for asking.
Very good. I know a little bit about you, but they know nothing about you. Let's let you tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, I, as you said, am a Chief Master Sergeant, United States Air Force veteran. I'm a poet, speaker, author, Go Coach, founder and CEO of Masterful Purpose LLC, which is a personal development and speaking business. I also am the founder of two nonprofits, M2G, Asafi Ahadi, which is a girls' empowerment program to help young girls prevent pregnancy, suicide, incest, rape, and drug abuse.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a pretty serious program because we found the need.
Well, I could say this, that you're a good model for what you're doing because you obviously have a good memory. Good memory. I'm just remembering all of the things you do. Why are you working so hard? You're retired from the military. Why are you working so hard? What's this all about?
My mission in life is to fan into flame the gifts of God and ignite goal achievement in billions of people. So my goal is to get in front of people with my speaking. I do motivational speaking and I tell my story, my life story.
Okay.
And I'm very transparent with it. And it connects with the audience and they're able to see if I can get to be a Chief Master Sergeant in the Air Force, the top 1% out of 300,000 airmen with a background like mine, then they can do it too.
Chief Master Sergeant.
Chief Master
Now
Sergeant.
that's as high as one can go as a non-commissioned officer?
Correct.
How long, how much of your story can you tell us today? We've only got about a half an hour, but please.
Briefly, I can sum it up. I left home at the age of 15 and I ended up dropping out of school. I was homeless for a while and I was doing the things that people do when they are homeless and living on the street. I met
At 15?
At 15, I met my now ex-husband, and we got married, had a few kids. It was a very abusive relationship.
Before we get to that relationship, you left home at 15.
Right.
Were things that bad at home?
They were bad at home. I have a very loving family, but I had a very, my father was alcoholic.
Okay.
And abusive, and it wasn't the ideal home. It suffered its dysfunctions,
Okay.
as many homes do.
But one thing about it, you were 15.
Right.
And you know, 15-year-olds are smarter than the smartest people on the planet, right? They
Right,
all know everything.
At 30 going on 50.
Yeah. So you left home at 15.
Right.
And dropped out of school immediately, or how did that happen?
I was hitchhiking. I was ended up in Fontana, and I was hitchhiking back and forth to school, and I had a bad experience, and I knew that it wasn't a safe thing to do. So that's when I dropped out of school and went on to get my GED.
Were you? How were you in school?
I was very academically inclined.
You liked school?
I loved school very, very much.
But despite all of that, you dropped out.
Right.
How long after you dropped out did you, what happened after you dropped out of school?
I dropped out of school, and like I said, I met my now ex-husband. We got married. It was an abusive relationship, so we got a divorce, and I got into another abusive relationship with someone that I didn't know was a felon and had mental issues, and found out too late that he was also a pedophile. Ended up with his death, and then me in a bad situation.
His death, how did that occur? Did you cause his death? What are we?
No, like I said, he had some issues already.
Okay.
And the lifestyle that he was living, we had separated, I thought. He was kind of like a bad penny, kept showing up no matter where I moved and went, he would show up. And one night he showed up, and he had told me that he had murdered someone and asked me to come in. If he could come in the house, and he had a gun in his hand. He had a shotgun in his hand. I didn't know if he was going to kill me and my children, who were just about 10 feet away, so I had an option of letting him come in or possibly saying no and angering him. So I let him come in. A few minutes later, somebody knocked on the door, asked him to come out. He went out, and they shot him in the head.
That's a very traumatic incident.
It was, and I wasn't in a good place already. And then that on top of that, it kind of was the straw, in essence.
So as a catalyst, what did that make you do? What was your response to that?
My response was to end my life. I was
Well,
not
we can see you didn't do that, thank God.
Right. I wasn't in bad grace of God. God wasn't done with me yet. He had a purpose for me. And that is my whole core of my message. God has a purpose for you. We're born for His purpose. And my purpose was to go on and inspire other people that have done things and been in bad situations, and to let them know that.
How did you work yourself back into a circumstance of wanting to try after witnessing that death, being in a place that you said was a bad place, made you want and consider suicide? What took you past that?
Well, you've heard the saying.
And I know this is, people, this is probably something that you would get to hear as you come and hear her speak as a motivational speaker, but right now, I'm just kind of nosy. I want to know what's going on.
Well, you've heard the saying, there's power in prayer, and I had a praying mother that had scabs on her knees from praying me through up until this point in my life. And she came over to the house, prayed. She decided that she wasn't going to lose another child. She talked to me and prayed with me for about 7 hours overnight. We stood and we prayed, and I cried. And God took that burden from me. That's all I can say. He took that burden from me right then.
And your mother was the one who was able to talk to you?
My mother was a catalyst, right.
So we kind of went full circle there, because
Right.
you had left mother's advice, you had left mother's instruction,
Right.
you had left the warmth of mother's home.
Right.
Because, once again, 15, we know everything, and we were able to get there. So after this revelation, what occurred in your life? Now, you were how old at this point when you decided that you were going to try to be something else, be better?
I was in my late 20s.
Okay.
I was in my late 20s. And my mother, who was very into goal setting, taught me how to set goals. And then I studied some of the greats, John Maxwell, Bob Proctor, Franklin Covey, who also had a type of planner at that time. And I began to set goals and learn how to achieve them. I figured out, because goals, depending upon where you are in life, they're not like black and white all the time. So you have to figure out some of your self-sabotaging habits, some of the fears that prevent you.
Self-sabotaging habits,
Right.
Okay.
Right. And the limits that we have on our mind, we have to be able to remove those limits from our own self-limiting beliefs.
You attained the rank of Chief Master Sergeant, United States Air Force. And you're telling me now about a period of time in your life when you were 29 years old, and we still haven't entered the military yet.
Right.
You are making changes in your life. What made you move into the military, and when did you do that?
I started getting my life together, and I had a few jobs.
How do you know when you're getting your life together? What made you feel that way?
I started taking better care of my children. I started living on purpose, waking up on purpose, having, like I said, set goals with end results. I knew what I wanted to do. I had it planned out. I knew I needed to get a better job in order to better take care of my children. So I got a job eventually, not right away, but eventually I got a job at the Home Depot. I worked there for a couple years.
How long did it take you to get a job? How many no's did you endure, or was it easy for you to get a job once you made your
wasn't.
mind?
I wasn't a disciplined person, so it took some getting my life together. I was born again, got back into the church, started praying, started getting into the Word, and again, through God's grace, He helped get me back on the right path. It wasn't an all of a sudden. It took a couple years. I wasn't 29 when this happened. I was in my about mid-30s, my mid-20s. And so it took a few years before me to get my life together. I got a job at the Home Depot about when I was like around 28 or 29. I started working at the Home Depot. And again, I'm a new person now. I've got motivation, and I worked as hard as I could because I know I was working unto God, not for the Home Depot.
Okay.
Pretty soon I started, I was training my supervisors.
Okay.
And I worked there for a few years. I worked in every single department, started training my supervisors. An opening would come up, and I'd put in my application.
When you say training your supervisors, and excuse me for, my levity here, but what do you mean? Once again, I'm going back to this 15-year-old girl who knew everything. Now she's training her supervisors at her first real job at Home Depot.
Right.
Okay, so how did you realize you were training your supervisors?
Because the opening would come up, the supervisor would come aboard, and they would tell them to shadow me, for me to show them inventory, show them how we stock, how logistics were in that department.
How many supervisors did you train before you
Over the course of
had another revelation?
Over the course of about 3 years, I trained about 3 or 4 supervisors. And I mean, to the point where eventually Home Depot was sued, and it became a class action suit because they would not pay me to do the work that I was doing, have me train my supervisors.
Did you sue Home Depot?
I did not. I ended up being on the class action suit just by default because I was hired during that time. And all of the things that Home Depot were doing, paying women, of course, less, paying people not, there was no union. They look at you and say, okay, you're worth this is what we're paying you. So everybody was paid something different at that time.
So that class action suit was won?
Was one.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And how long were you at Home Depot, and how did you make the move into the military?
Well, I was working at the Home Depot.
Did anybody call you sergeant while you were at Home Depot?
No, I wasn't in the military at that time.
No, I just thought maybe somebody thought, since you were in charge, somebody would call you sergeant.
No, I got disgusted, and I got frustrated with the situation there at the Home Depot. I started a business, Queen Bee Cleaning, had a partner, and we did rough and final cleanup on houses. We just came up with this. We put a little plan together, but we didn't really have any experience. So we weren't bidding correctly, and we still weren't making the money that was going to help me get out of my poverty situation. So I started working at Taco Bell at night. So now I'm working at Taco Bell, I'm working at Home Depot, and I'm working rough and final cleanup in the morning, which is 20 hours of my day, which gave me 4 hours of the day to sleep and take care of my kids. And I did that for about a year, and it wasn't working. My kids were still underage, they were all under 12, and basically taking care of themselves. I was in the car.
I'm tired. Okay. You've tired me out with all these 3 jobs, working with the kids, and we still haven't gotten into the military. Do me a favor, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to continue this journey, this life journey with Pamela Pate, a veteran, Chief Master Sergeant with the United States Air Force, and she's a motivational speaker. And if you've been with us from the beginning, you know she's got quite a story, and we're nowhere near finished. So we'll be right back after this break.
Give your town a reason to celebrate, because every Goodwill item you bring home brings job training and more to your community. Goodwill, bring good home.
This is Empire Talks Back. I'm Wallace Allen. I've had a few minutes to rest and catch up. My energy level isn't anywhere near that of our guest, Pamela Pate. She is a veteran, former United States Air Force Chief Master Sergeant, the highest rank that a non-commissioned officer could have. Prior to the break, we were talking about the 15 million jobs you were working.
Right.
Actually, 3 jobs, one in the day, one in the night, and one again in the morning. One of them was your own business.
Right.
And at this point, you were 29, maybe 30 years old, and still not quite satisfied.
Right.
What occurred to make you decide to join the United States Air Force?
Well, I did all of those jobs for about 2 years, and it was taking its toll on my health. I had a friend that was in the Air Force Reserves at that time, and she had children, and I'm like, how'd she do that? Because at that time, back in 1989,
You don't mean how'd she have the children. You meant how she have the children and work in the military.
Right.
Because we know how she had the children. Right, okay,
Correct.
right, great.
Well, in 1989, the United States Air Force didn't allow single parents in the military. I don't know how she did what she did, if she was in the military and then she got her divorce, but I just knew that she was single with kids and in the military, and I was like, well, that would help a lot. I'd have benefits. I could, quit one of these jobs. By that time,
only one of these jobs.
Well, my business had dissolved because my business partner passed away.
Sorry about that.
And this is when I went to a recruiter. I actually had a friend that was a recruiter, and he was giving somebody else the spill. And I was like, that sounds really good. How could I do that? He was like, what? You want to do this? He was a recruiter. He perked right up. It's like, okay.
Right.
I think 2 weeks later, I was in the military.
Kids and all, right?
But it wasn't an easy decision. Like I said, in '89, you have to give up custody, care, and control of your children. You could not be in the military single with children. So I had a decision to make. Could I go into the military and get the benefits to help my family at the same time possibly losing my family? I had to weigh my options and weigh my odds, and I'm like, this is a really hard choice.
This would be a great time to take a break, but I'm not taking one, because I can't wait to hear how we did this, what occurred.
I signed the paper. I gave up custody, care, and control of my children, and I
who-
prayed that my ex-husband wouldn't take them. He loved the kids, I know he did, but he didn't take the children from me. They actually stayed in my home, even though I didn't have custody, care, and control.
Okay.
And I was age 32. I went into the military, the oldest female there at basic training, older than my technical instructor.
Okay.
That went well. I got out, became a medical technician.
Hold it. Basic training went well. For 32 years, were you?
I was 32.
Were
I was
you-
in good shape.
Okay.
And in basic training, there's a bunch of 17, 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
And me
yeah.
being 32, I was the same age as their parents. So that's what they called me, Mom. And I carried them, I helped motivate them. I've always been a motivator. So when the girls started slacking, I was there in their ear. I'd fall back in line and pep them and get
So
them
you
around
were
the track.
sergeanting before you became a sergeant.
Well, I've always been a coach and a motivator. I've always been a coach and a
And your
motivator.
nickname isn't Sarge.
No.
Okay. Go on. All right.
So,
So you were motivating before you had any rank in basic training. So how'd the military go? I mean, it must have gone pretty
right,
well.
after 6 years, I was able to go active duty as a recruiter. And as a recruiter, oh, I love that. That was my element. Now I'm coaching full time. I'm speaking. I've always been a speaker. My gift is poetry. So I was able to entwine my poetry into my audiences of over 4,000 or 5,000 people sometimes.
So you would use a
Yes.
sweet combination of words to convince them that moving into the military was the answer to the dream that they didn't even know they were having.
Or perpetrate the acceleration of active duty or reservists passing the baton. So they'd go out and continue to recruit themselves.
So this motivation aspect of your life, as you completed your military duty, how long were you in the military?
26 years.
So 26 years. How long of that 26 years were you a chief master sergeant?
The last 4 years.
So with all of that motivating experience, all of that coaching experience.
Last 2 years, sorry. Last 2 years.
Okay. And now upon release from the military, completing that obligation, you have embarked on this motivational speaking career.
Right, right. I came full circle. When I was young, I used to write a lot of poetry. That was my gift. That is my gift. And I didn't recognize it at the time. Now that I'm older, I embrace that and I put that into my speaking. I speak to encourage, to motivate, to transform. So my speaking audience has eye-opening awareness of their possibilities. All of the limits that they have on their mind are removed from my message. They realize that.
How much of your life story do you tell as you do your motivational presentation?
It depends on how long I'm speaking.
Okay.
It depends on how long I'm speaking. I'm speaking with the Riverside Women's Club.
Well, be sure they give you enough time to tell the story,
Right.
because it's extremely interesting.
Right.
It's motivating just to hear how you move from one place to another. And there's a very common aspect of your presentation and your life story that I think most of us will identify with, and that's at 15, we all think we know everything.
Right.
And how we move from there, I guess it isn't what you do so much as how you respond to the situation that you find yourself in. How do you strengthen people to do that as they become motivated to make the changes in their life? What are some of the things that you put in front of them to put them on a schedule, or exactly what's important for them to do in order to change their lives? And folks, pay attention, because you probably have to pay to get this at a motivational
workshop.
At a workshop, yeah.
First of all, I find most people are setting goals that don't require God to be in them. You have to set a goal that makes you stretch. You have to remove all the barriers that you have mentally, saying that this is too big, this is too much, this is too far, I don't have the education, I don't have the finance, my kids are too young. And you have to set goals that are going to require God to be in it in order for you to accomplish it.
So
and that's fear.
those don'ts are a good thing, because the don'ts are what leave room for God to show up.
Right.
So if you don't have enough money,
Right.
and you proceed anyway, that means you're exercising some
Faith.
element of faith.
Right.
It's surprising how much faith people execute on a daily basis without even knowing that they are operating on faith. One of those is when you get in your car and you're driving around one of those corners at 80 miles an hour, figuring that the freeway is going to be there when you come around the corner,
Right.
or that there's not going to be a big rock slide. We assume so many things that are really based on faith that what you're talking about
Until it
puts us
comes
under
to
a-
ourselves.
Yeah.
Until it comes to ourselves. We exercise faith on exterior and on exterior things, but not when it comes to ourselves. Most people have self-sabotaging habits, self-doubt. I surveyed, I believe the website has over 20,000 business women on it, and I asked the question, what is your biggest fear? 90% said fear of failure. And there
You
are
have
women in business.
You have 2 workbooks
Right.
that are part of your presentation. This takes some doubt away from your planning.
Right.
From what I understand as you talked to me a little bit about it, give us a little idea of how these books help establish a person's schedule, establish their attitude, establish what's necessary for them to make that change in life.
Well, this first book I devised because I was setting goals, and everything that I needed to set goals, all the workbooks out there, didn't encompass all the things that I found it was necessary. Analyzing yourself, discovering your self-sabotaging habits, recognizing your fears. So I devised a guide, the Masterful Purpose Goal and Daily Action Planner Guide, that encompasses those things. And it takes you step by step to goal setting, from figuring out who you are, brainstorming all your goals, figuring out what's the most important goal.
Putting them in order,
and
prioritizing.
Prioritizing, and
you
sticking
have
with the number one goal.
And you have actually a planner.
Right.
So that it appears once you set goals, you're able to track yourself.
Right. You're able to put everything down, because you need to wake up on purpose. You need to start your day on purpose, your
Wait a
week on
minute.
purpose.
Wake up on purpose.
Wake up on purpose.
You know, a little confession. I wake up, I look out. If it's still dark, I say thank you, and I go back to sleep. If it's light come, being anxious to wake up and get up. What are we? I mean, I'm
Well, when
anxious
you-
to
when
get
you
up,
set
but
your
I don't
goals-
mind a little extra sleep. So when you say wake up on purpose, what are we talking about?
So before you even go to sleep, you know you've set your goals for the week, for the month,
So you
and
set
you
that
know,
goal at night before you
right,
go to sleep.
or even the week. I set my detailed goals Saturday before the week starts. I've got little details of my 6 months in advance, my 30 days in advance, and then the week before I detail everything in the morning, when I need to wake up, what I'm going to be doing, how it's going to, one thing affects the other. Your today is a result of your yesterday.
For people's tomorrow,
Right.
how can they get in touch with you? How do they access your services? What do we need to do?
You can reach me by contacting my,
Well, give me the phone number. It's going to show up right here.
Okay, my phone number is 833-744-6483.
Do you cost a lot of money?
I don't. Depending upon what venue I'm speaking at and the venue's money, the venue budget, I can sometimes work around depending upon other things I can do at the venue.
You're willing to negotiate. You're willing to do what's necessary
Right,
to help
right.
you complete your goal of
Right,
making the world
right.
a better place by making people stronger at who they are
Right.
and what they do.
I'm an investment. So if a person wants to invest into their event, invest into their people and their company, once you get me as a speaker, I'm going to give you more than you expected. I'm going to give the audience eye-opening, transformational, motivational experience that they're going to talk about for years. I give them exercises even during my speaking that they can start utilizing right there while they're in the audience,
Well,
that they're
you've-
going to take home and use.
Well, you've given us some information today that we can use immediately. Part of that is a phone number to call you so that they can
Right.
be exposed to your message
And my website,
and your website. What is your website?
www.masterfulpurpose.com. www.masterfulpurpose.com.
Is that a play on your master, well, this chief master sergeant?
That masterful purpose came about because in the Bible, God says we were born for His purpose. Everyone has a masterful purpose. You were born for a masterful purpose.
My masterful purpose right now is to say thank you for sharing with us today, and I want to let the audience know I appreciate you guys sticking around. Matter of fact, I don't know how you could have left today with this magnetic story that Ms. Pate has told. But we'll look forward to seeing you next time. God bless you. Thank you for your time, and bye.